Unsolved.
This episode is unique. It focuses on Christmas Day, the day after, and it presents things of interest or importance and kind of skips some things that might not be important and provides a few different scenarios to this case. So we start off with Christmas morning at 6:30 a.m. when the Ramseys awoke that morning and went downstairs to the living room to open presents. And JonBenet's large gift was a new bicycle, and she received a My Twin doll and a jewelry craft set and some other items. And Burke received a miniature garage set, a remote control car, and his large item was a new Nintendo 64 game system.
Come on, Mario. Come on, Mario, jump! Don't give up.
Want to grow? The calcium in milk helps bones grow.
Okie dokie.
Now, after Christmas morning and opening presents and having a good time, the family made pancakes for breakfast, a late breakfast. And then John, in the afternoon, decided to go to the airport to put some items in the plane and check out the airport. And the airport is 12 miles away, and so it's a 15 to 20 minute drive there. And he returned around 3 or 4 p.m. that afternoon when the kids were outside playing. Now, sometime during Christmas Day, John Ramsey took their dog, JonBenet's dog, over to Joe Barnhill's house so he could watch the dog that night and the next day, and what turned out to be, for years, the rest of the dog's life. Approximately at 5 p.m. that evening, the Ramsey family drove over to Fleet and Priscilla White's house, which is about 1.2 miles away, a very short distance. And at their house was Fleet, Priscilla, Daphne, Little Fleet, Priscilla's parents, Priscilla's 2 sisters, and their boyfriends. And they had dinner around 6 p.m. And then afterwards, John Ramsey and Daphne worked on some paper jewelry together, while Fleet and JonBenet did the same. And then here's the last known photograph of JonBenet Ramsey. And the photo looks a little deceptive, but if you look closely, you can see that JonBenet is lying on the floor, and to the back right, you can see her pants, dark colored pants that she was wearing that night. The Ramsey family left at about 8:30 p.m. that night, and on their way home, they stopped at Stuart Walker's house and then Glenn and Susan Stein's house, and then thought about going to John Fernie's house, but decided to skip it. And they arrived home around 9 p.m. that evening. JonBenet had fallen asleep in the car. She was sound asleep, zonked. And John carried her to bed that night. Burke recalled nothing unusual at the Whites' party other than getting a mild shock from the electric deer fence outside. He said his sister fell asleep in the car on the way home, but awakened to help carry presents into the house of a friend. When they got home, JonBenet walked in slowly and walked up the spiral stairs to bed just ahead of Patsy. Now, according to John Ramsey, after leaving JonBenet with Patsy in her bedroom, he went downstairs and played with Burke for 10 or 20 minutes. And then he put him to bed. He went upstairs. Patsy was already in bed, asleep. He took a sleeping pill and went to bed for that night. And nothing unusual happened that night, except maybe some nightmares.
Welcome to Burke's Nightmare. When the Ramseys returned from Fleet White's house, everybody was up. And at some point, JonBenet and Burke got out the tea and pineapple, and they were eating. And JonBenet went to eat some of Burke's pineapple, and he got angry, and he got something heavy and smacked her on the back of the head.
Welcome to John's Nightmare. After everybody was asleep, John went to JonBenet's bedroom and got in her bed, and he molested her, and she screamed and was hurt, and so he took her downstairs to the basement, and he made the garrote, and he strangled her, and she died.
Welcome to Patsy's Nightmare.
Mom, I'm hungry. Get up, help. JonBenet, what are you doing? We got a flight tomorrow. I'm hungry. Oh, come downstairs. Oh, JonBenet, your room. Change out of that.
Patsy Ramsey, you got in a fight with JonBenet, and you struck her and severely injured her, and she was unconscious, and you covered it up by staging a crime scene and writing a ransom note.
But that you are excessively.
In the morning, about 5:30, December 26th, Patsy got dressed and did her hair and makeup. She went to the second floor to the laundry area outside JonBenet's bedroom. Then she walked down the spiral staircase to the first floor. Patsy saw the note, read the beginning of it. According to her police testimony, she thought the note was about John Ramsey's daughter, Melinda. Then Patsy realized it meant JonBenet and ran to her daughter's bedroom. Now, according to Patsy, she found this 3-page note on the bottom of the spiral staircase. And you can see that it was addressed to Mr. Ramsey. It doesn't name JonBenet in the note, and it gives the appearance that the author was familiar with John Ramsey, but not that familiar. And it closes with the Victory SPTC. Now, after getting an understanding of the meaning of the ransom note, Patsy ran upstairs to JonBenet's room and found her missing. And then she screamed out for John. And John came down in his underwear and met her. And they went and checked on Burke And then they went downstairs, and John got down on all fours and laid out the ransom note on the floor and read it, and Patsy called 911. And instead of playing the recording for you again, I just put the transcript of the words on the screen here. And you can see that Patsy told the 911 operator that we have a kidnapping, that she knew the end of the ransom note, SBTC, victory, and she was out of breath, and she ended up hanging up on the 911 operator. Now, John Ramsey went upstairs, and Patsy waited for the police. And in a few minutes, Officer Rick French arrived at the front door shortly after 6 a.m. And Patsy spoke with him, and then John came down the stairs and spoke to the officer also. I spoke with Mr. and Ms. Ramsey while Burke continued to sleep. Ms. Ramsey told me that she had gone into JonBenet's room at about 5:45 to wake her in preparation for a short trip the family was to take later that day. She found JonBenet's room empty and then discovered the note as she walked down the stairs. She immediately called police.
Laying in bed with my eyes open, and so thinking of what might have happened.
Did you hear Mom and Dad talk?
I heard Mom like going psycho.
Going psycho?
Yeah, or like, you know,
Did you go down and see what was going on?
Stay in bed.
When he awoke, his mother was turning on the lights and in a rush saying, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh." Then his father turned the lights on and off again. Burke stayed in bed, wondering if something had happened. He heard his father trying to calm his mother, then telling her to call the police. Burke told the detective he did not get out of bed that morning and that a policeman looked into his room. He recalled thinking that when the police arrived, we would probably be tied up all day, and that he was disappointed the family would not be going to Charlevoix as planned. Now, Patsy had called the Fernie's telephone number after 911, and I guess she spoke to John Fernie, and she told him, "Please come over here." Then Patsy called the White's telephone number, and she got a hold of Cliff Gaston, who I guess handed the phone over to Priscilla. What happened when you first arrived? I drove my car up the alley and parked in the back of their house and went around to the patio door, which was a glass door leading into the kitchen and back of the house, and didn't see anybody, but saw a piece of paper lying on the floor. Looked at that. It was facing the other direction. Read it, and after the first few lines realized something very strange was happening. And so I ran around to the front of the house and knocked on the door and was let in. Okay. Now, the document that you picked up, Did that prove to be what has been designated as the Ramsey kidnapping note, or the note involved in this homicide investigation? Yeah, I didn't pick it up. It was inside the door and I was outside. The door was locked. I read it through the door. You actually could read some of the language of the note? Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey told me that they had spent Christmas night with the Whites and that they had arrived home at 10 p.m. Mr. Ramsey said he read to both kids for a short time, then they were put in bed by 10:30. Mrs. Ramsey said that JonBenet had been dressed in white long underwear and a red turtleneck. This concludes part 1 of this special episode, and part 2 will be next weekend. If you enjoyed this show, won't you please subscribe to my channel?
You don't want to miss an episode. Do you hear me?
Now, on the follow-up to this episode, we're going to look at JonBenet's activities before Christmas and John Ramsey's activities or meetings before Christmas. So we're going to look at JonBenet in the Christmas parade, and then we're going to look at the mystery party that was held at Pasta J's, and then we're going to look at John Ramsey's business meeting at the hotel, and then JonBenet's beauty contest and skill portion at the mall, and then the December 23rd Christmas party with Santa Claus at the Ramsey's house. Just kind of looking for any suspects out there that might not have been looked into just yet. Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved, and I'm recording this before I have finished this episode, and I've put a lot of time into this episode, and so I hope you enjoyed it. And tomorrow night, hopefully, I will complete my episode on the Zodiac Killer case. So I'll see you the next time.